Now, before we jump into material, anybody want a clarification, or if you have a question about any of that, or you want to know any
I didn't catch what city.
Valdosta, Georgia, which is same state we're in now, of course, but about 4.5 hours south in the very center of the state, almost Florida. Matter of fact, the family that originally built our building, it's a very wealthy family, and they had orange groves right across. At that time, the frost line had not dipped. There were actually orange groves way up in the north part of Florida, and they had a wonderful orange crop that just made oodles of money one year off this orange crop. And so they thought, what are we going to do with this money? And so they decided, let's build a first-rate building in the very center of town. And they had the idea that they could get on the roof and see into Florida and maybe see their orange trees. But it means a lot to us because orange is the color of the second chakra, and which is creativity, life, vitality, that generative element, where we get the word generosity. So to be right in the middle of town and hopefully open up a creative, generous space. And so anyway, it means a lot to the congregation. Thank you for asking that about us. Anyone else?
The name of your church.
Christ the King.
This might be more appropriate, like just over coffee, but what the heck would happen from a conversion experience that would warrant getting kicked out of a congregation?
Now, are you talking about me or my great
I would think it would be a positive. Unless you got too prophetic and started.
I think, you know, the tradition of my great-great-uncle, when he had his mystical experience, it just would not fit that box. And for me personally, the folk that were showing up started to be more and more and more diverse. About 50-50 black and white. Again, this is 20 years ago, so times are already very different in 20 years. But we had a group that opened itself up very lovingly and compassionately to gays and lesbians, and we just were a little too messy, I think. And so we think you belong somewhere else, and they did me a favor.
Thank you.
Would you describe your style as Pentecostal worship song?
Now,
You said mass. That went, oh man,
if you worship with us, it's quite Catholic in a lot of ways, and I think it's because that we felt the need to be rooted. You know, if you look at a lot of the emergent models that are bubbling up, there is this need in young people to be rooted and grounded, and I think that was my experience as a very young person 20 years ago. That especially my whole world being pulled out from under me unexpectedly, I felt this need. So my early mentor, my bishop at the time, our diocese, the church that sponsored me was an Anglo-Catholic parish. So that centering ourselves in the sacrament of the ritual of worship, but then a real social, prophetic activism in and on top of that. So kind of that English Anglo-Catholic model. But we're not stuffy, we have people come in their shorts. It's very casual, and we do a big variety of music in that context. So that's kind of, is that?
Yeah, what kind of creative worship experiences do you have? Or do you have any?
I guess that would be up to the participant if they thought it was creative or not. I would like to think sometimes.
That's not typical.
Well, we do a big variety of music, just a big variety, from traditional hymnody, of course, to chants, to zay, to very contemporary music, and we even include a good bit of secular music, just to kind of make the worship experience more open to folk that aren't churched. So I hope it's great.
What do you do with liturgy? Do you kind of move the liturgy around a little bit?
Oh, very little, no. We're very faithful, again, that desire to be rooted and grounded, have roots and wings at the same time. We do use enriching our worship, the expansive language exclusively, being a university town, and we'll get to that in a minute. Patriarchy and the loss of the sacred feminine is part of what has wounded our soul, and so the attempt to reclaim that is very, very important to us. But if you came to Mass, you would know you're at Mass. And if you came out of any traditional Episcopal church, you would feel very much at home and know what was going on and not be lost at all. So we try not to reinvent the wheel, if that makes sense.
The listeners want to hear the name of that expansive language Episcopal music and
Enriching our worship. It's supplemental liturgy, and I feel very comfortable with it. I'm sure most of you do as well.
Does your building generate any income for you?
We have one little area on the 4th floor that we rent to a lawyer. And so it's real funny that when somebody comes to see me pastorally and they ask me a question, I'll say, I don't know, you want me to ask the man upstairs? And the reason that's funny is because he's a very renowned attorney with mystique. He's been featured on court TV and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're going to ask someone, it would be a good one to ask. But the other thing we say is we're doing our best to bring together the law and the prophets. So. And this brings up another issue. Our coffee shop has always lost money. Always. But it's worth it. Say it that way. We voluntarily did not request exemption from ad valorem taxes for the part that we rent to the attorney because that's nothing to do with the ministry of our church. We have an elevator that goes right up. We have a little entry lobby, so it's people can get right up very easily and feel like they're not going through the church. Hildegard's, the entire first floor, is where my office is. We have been in a 7-year court battle over the county trying to say that it's not a ministry. And we have held our convictions. It's cost us a lot of money, a lot of time, effort, and energy, and wear and tear. We were in court about 2 weeks ago, and we won the day. So still not over. And the reason it's important to us is because that the county attorney is arguing that it's not Christian or it's not religious worship. And so it's not an issue of, that we sell anything, it's nothing to do with money, it's what he calls primary use. And if we lost this, at least in the state of Georgia, it could be devastating because a local tax board could go to, say, a conference center and say, okay, this is a swimming pool. There's no pool, there's no pews, people don't sit in pews and worship a deity, so this is taxable. Go to the ball field. This is, go to the playground. At a local parish, go to your parking lot. Go to your educational wing where you have Mother's Day out programs and say there's more other activities. And a lot of us, if we had to pay ad valorem taxes, it would devastate our ministries. And so I think we're close to winning this, but it's been a long, tiring battle.
You mentioned earlier that you consider yourself being the center of town, that the church is all around you. What type of outreach do you have to that community?
Well, in kind of the new urbanism models, there's a term called the third place. I don't know if you're familiar with that term in the new urbanism, third place. But with Hildegards, that's what we try to create, is a third place. And by third place, what that means, there's where you live, and there's where you work, and then you need another place to in a sense, kind of be a third anchor. And so music, entertainment, coffee, food, art, community, Hildegards became a third place. And so it was a front porch for people to hang out, and that did happen. We can't pay, we've never turned anyone away. So we feed hundreds of people a day for free. If you can pay, then thank you, we'll be happy to take it. But just, community events, community outreach. And we are not Canterbury ministry, actually, the campus ministry. That's up the street from us. And it does a wonderful, wonderful job. And I don't say this to boast, though, I just hold it up, that we probably have to start thinking of different ways to do things. But Hildegards employs more college students than the Canterbury House has in attendance. So that is something you can... And I'm very, very proud of it. I remember just a few days ago I walked through, and Brandy, who is this very, very tall, beautiful girl, young lady, I should say, and I noticed that she was holding cash. And of course, the administrator part of me wanted to say, why are you carrying cash around? And she had, from all of Hildegards employees that worked that day, had taken up money to buy a homeless man a pair of shoes. And so this daily engagement with the community, with one another, it almost has a contemporary monastic element, but yet they're young people, they're tattooed, they have piercings, they like to drink, they're young people. But yet to watch them being there on a daily basis practically, and in that environment, you see the transformation start to happen, and next thing you know, they're young prophets and mystics reaching out. So it happens quite organically. Okay. Maybe you got my time, but I don't want to, I'd rather dialogue than even preach that. We ready to move on? Do we need to take a break? So we'll do that, and then we'll jump into material. Thank you for your questions and your comments.